Okay, so now I'm going to do some more free motion quilting, and I'm going to use this great hoop that Bernina makes, and actually Martelli works with them to make this hoop, and I have to thank Vince at Bernina for bringing Bernina to make this hoop because I love it. This hoop will take the tensions, or some of the tension at least, out of your shoulders. So we all have the tendency, when I teach quilting, we all have the tendency to go like this, and we think we're going to have a lot of control because it's in our wrists. But the thing is, the wrist is good at small, jerky movements, so that's not what you want when you're quilting. You want the motion to come from your arms, like all the way up, and that's going to put less tension on your wrist too, and you don't want your shoulders to come up. So this really helps you, and I love this one because it has an opening here, so you can just slide it on when the foot's already down, which means you don't have to end your thread. So I'm going to show you how to quilt this. This is my tubes fabric from my Contempo line, Free Motion Fantasy for Benartex, and I'm going to show you how I quilt it. So I would quilt kind of a C shape, and notice my shoulders are relaxed. Now I'm quilting like you quilt on a domestic machine in manual mode. I don't have a stitch regulator because I'm going to show you ruler work in a minute. You could use your stitch regulator though with this. Now this works better if you have the hoop itself. Works better if you have a cabinet for your machine, if you're on a domestic or a sew steady table, because you really want the whole hoop to have contact with what you're moving. You don't want a curved table on it. Now of course the Q20 was built for quilting, so you don't need anything extra for this. I love this machine, and I'm actually doing manual, and people who say they can't do manual on regular machines a lot of times find they can do manual on this one because it's so smooth. So you see, if you look at this, now I'd be using matching thread so I wouldn't see my little mess up right there. I'd be using matching thread, but it would have such dimension under regular lights. We're in a show floor, so there's lights from everywhere, but it has such dimension to it. Okay, so I've showed you how to use the hoop. We are going to move over and do one more design for you over here. So I'm just going to quilt my way over. And by the way, when you have practice cloths, there's nothing wrong with quilting them over and over and over. Just, you know, play. If my biggest tip to you probably is one day, you know, don't try to do the perfect feather every day. One day do some squiggles. One day do some loops. One day try to draw a stick figure. One day do a Christmas tree. One day do a flower. And gradually you'll get better and better because you'll be getting muscle control each day. My first book, my first volume of this is free motion, but again, this is ruler work. So I am now going to do circles and diamonds. So I'm going to turn to that page, and I know I don't know the page number. I actually looked it up for you before I did this. Basically what I'm doing is I'm creating scallops, okay? So I'm going to be putting the center line of this ruler on the edge of my border area and be quilting a scallop. And I'm going to quilt at the top and bottom. And because I'm using an oversized ruler, those two shapes are going to intersect and give me circles and diamonds. In this book, it also shows you, here's some free motion ideas for you. I don't want you guys to feel limited to this. This is a jumping off point, right? This just shows you some different effects you can get. So here, the outside areas are puffy, and here, the inside areas are puffy. You get lots of different effects. One other thing I want to mention, not in this page of the book, but you see how you have other lines on this scallop? What if I lined up the edge of my sashing area on one of these lines? I'd get a shallower curve, right? So these lines aren't on there necessarily for the circles. They're on in there so you can keep your curves uniform if you're using it in a different format. So certainly I have my border area marked out here. If I put the half circle line right here, the quadrant lines, I'd be getting a half circle. But if I put it down like this with one of these lines on, I'd be getting a different shape. So you should feel free with your own ruler work to play with the shape. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to connect the first point to the second point and then move down. Remember, I like fingers on the ruler and fingers on the fabric, right? That's ultimate control. And I'm in manual mode right now because I want to show you what it's like on a domestic machine. But I'm going to go down to the next point. Then I'm going to move my ruler over. And I'm going to go down to the next point. Now, if you need to stop here to reposition your hands to get a better grip, that is perfectly okay. I'm actually okay not doing that with a 4-inch circle, but as my circles got bigger, if I was using the 6-inch circle, you can bet I'd be stopping and just quilting a quarter circle and then stopping and repositioning my hands and quilting another quarter circle, because you know you need control. So, I'm just going to show you how this interlocks at the top before I stop. Now, I'm going to be lazy because I don't see my straight line ruler here. So I'm just going to be lazy and free motion to the top. I would probably use a straight line ruler to do this. Now I'm going to do the circles facing into my border to the bottom, right? So here, I have a choice. I could rotate my fabric, but if I'm on the frame, I can't, right? So here's a good example of why I might just quilt a quarter of the circle and then another quarter. I might want to hold my ruler like this, you know, to quilt a little way around. And then once it gets uncomfortable that way, I can put my hand behind it and quilt around here. And then quilt down to the bottom. Now, I just had to go a little way, which is why I just had one hand on it, but then I reposition. Now, what I want you to look at is here. I get this nice interlocking design, and this whole book for CNT is filled with lots of design ideas for you, so I hope you'll look at the BERNINA Q20 and Q24, the Brewer Rulers, and the CNT book, Aurifil thread, and a free motion fantasy fabric for Benartex. Hard to remember all the new things that are coming out, but it's a really exciting time to be quilting, so I hope you'll join us.